Both the semi-finals that we witnessed in this edition of the T20 World Cup were absolute crackers, absolute humdingers, as they say. As a neutral, I couldn't have asked for better matches. Both were absolute treats to watch, and I think both matches were similar in the sense that, in both the matches, the team that eventually ended up losing, so that is Pakistan as well as England, were actually favourites to win the match up until the very end. But it was towards the fag end of the match, like the last 3 or 4 overs, jab match mein pasa palta, the game was turned on its head. In this video, I want to point your attention to something that Pakistani captain Babar Azam said during the post-match presentation when he was being interviewed by former Pakistani cricketer Bazid Khan. Now, why exactly am I talking about this? Because I feel there's a big life lesson, like a golden life lesson that we can all learn from this incident, and I'm going to be talking about that life lesson as the video progresses. So after the match was done and dusted, Bazid Khan, who was interviewing Babar Azam, asks Babar Azam ki dekhiye, if you had to pick one turning point in that match, which one would you pick? And then Babar Azam says कि देखिए मेरे ख्याल से कैच अगर हो जाता तो डिफरेंट सिनारियो होता. एज अ प्लेयर आपको ऑन द टोज रहना पड़ता है और अपॉर्चुनिटीज जो आती है आपको उनके लिए रेडी रहना पड़ता है. नाउ अकॉर्डिंग टू मी that wasn't the nicest thing for Babar Azam to have said. Even though there might be a lot of truth in what Babar Azam said, just put yourself in Hassan Ali's shoes for a second. If I'm Hassan Ali, even though I know that my catch or my dropped catch was very costly, and had I taken the catch, Pakistan would probably have won the match, I do not want to hear my captain say this publicly. Now let's just, for a second, let's just contrast what Babar Azam said to what Owen Morgan had to say after his side were beaten by New Zealand in the first semi-final that took place the day before the Pakistan versus Australia semi-final. Owen Morgan was asked a very similar question by Michael Atherton during the post-match presentation, and Owen Morgan was asked, as you look back on it, what were the key moments in the game? And Morgs could very easily have directly or indirectly thrown Chris Jordan under the bus, because it was Chris Jordan's over that, I think it was the 16th over, the 17th over, I believe, that turned the match on its head, because Jimmy Neesham hit like 20 odd in that over, after which the Kiwis were firm favourites. They were in the driver's seat to win the match. But Morgan, who's a lot more experienced as a captain, a lot older than Babar Azam as well. Morgan is 35, Babar Azam 27, and Morgan has a lot more experience compared to Babar Azam as a captain. Morgan kept his answer very, very vague and nebulous, and Morgan started his answer by saying hard to identify at the moment, and then he just talked about the fact that we were in control of the match, we should have won the match, which is why we're gutted, but towards the end we let the match slip. He did not specifically allude to or refer to that one Chris Jordan over, because he knew that that could have had like a very negative psychological impact on the morale of someone like a Chris Jordan. This is something that Alex Ferguson, former manager of Manchester United and probably one of the greatest managers ever, if not the greatest manager ever, would do beautifully. Even if he was bitterly vexed and angry by a particular player's performance in a match, during post-match interviews, during post-match press conferences, he would never single out that one player. He would always talk in general terms. He would say, we win as a team and we lose as a team as well. Now, behind the scenes, the conversation could have been very, very different. And it probably was. Behind the scenes, Sir Alex Ferguson was known to give his hair dryer treatments. And he would oftentimes, in the dressing room, when the media isn't watching, when there are no cameras, when no one outside of the Manchester United squad is actually watching, apart from the coaches, of course, Ferguson would probably, single out specific players and would give them the hairdryer treatment. But in the public limelight, right, when the cameras are on you, when the media is focusing on you, Ferguson would never lambast or never single out players, because he knew that, it would have a very demoralizing effect on the psychology of the player if he's making his criticism of a particular player public. And that's one of the reasons why Sir Alex Ferguson also showed the exit to Roy Keane, former captain of Manchester United. Roy Keane is a club legend. He was one of the best midfielders in the world when he was playing for Manchester United, when he was the captain of Manchester United. But Roy Keane made the blunder of actually criticizing specific players during a post-match interview after an underwhelming display by Manchester United. And that really ticked off Sir Alex Ferguson, because Ferguson knew what a pernicious effect or what a damaging effect that can have on that specific player's psyche, the player who is being criticized. Warren Buffett says something very similar as well. He says, praise by name, criticize by category. In other words, praise specifically, criticize generally. And I think that's something that the best of managers in the corporate world do as well. The best of managers in the corporate world, in the event that a manager isn't quite happy with the performance of one of his or her team members, then the manager would probably want to have a word, or a good manager would probably have a word with that person one-on-one, as opposed to embarrassing or publicly shaming that person in front of his or her team members. And so this was my opinion. If your opinion is different, I encourage you, I urge you to actually, let your opinion known in the comment section, such that we can have a healthy debate or a healthy discussion. Let me also point out that I'm taking absolutely nothing away from what Babar Azam has done in this World Cup as a captain, as a leader, as well as a batsman. He's been absolutely prolific, and he's only going to get better as a batsman as well as a captain. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did so, do consider subscribing to my channel. Two of my biggest interests in life are sports and human nature or human psychology. And that's one of the reasons, I chose to make a very drastic pivot in terms of my profession from being an investment banker to becoming a sports presenter. Because, my profession as a sports presenter allows me to actually rub shoulders with sporting personalities and delve into their psyches, to understand what is it that makes them tick. So if you have similar interests, if your interests align with my interests, that is, sports, human nature, human psychology, athletes, observing athletes, learning from them, then definitely do consider subscribing to my channel. आज के लिए बस इतना ही. As I said, in case you have different opinions compared to the opinions that I shared in this video, please share your opinions in the comment section. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and cheers.